Hello and good morning, my friends. Hope everyone is doing well. It has been a eventful few days here and week here. Welcome to the Impact Money Show, where we're not just talking about the ebb and flow of financial markets, but diving deep into the current shaping of our global economic, political, and technological landscape. We're broadcasting from Washington, D.C., where winter has decided to linger, with snow still on the ground and cold biting deep. Today's forecast offers no respite, with temperatures barely climbing into the low 30s, and the weekend promising more of the white stuff. The kids love it, although it is cold. But let's shift from the cold outside to the fiery dynamics of today's news. Let me share my link with my good friend and colleague, Matt Dixon, so he can join as well. Matt Dixon will join in a bit with the Market Watch report. First on the agenda, Donald Trump's latest twist in his political saga. Hold on a second here. I'm losing lights. There we go. Okay. After being sentenced to an unconditional discharge in the New York hush money case, Trump escapes the specter of jail or fines, but not the shadow of a conviction. Transitioning back into the presidency with this backdrop, he's now focusing on governance. His administration is taking shape with picks like Christine Toretti for ambassador to Sweden and Leo Terrell for senior DOJ role, signaling his intent to influence both domestic and international policy. The U.S. market has been robust leading into his term, but there's a palpable concern about inflation, particularly with Trump's tariff proposal in the mix. He's made immediate moves, like granting TikTok a 90-day extension to avoid a ban, and we're anticipating a wave of executive orders on energy policy, border security, and regulatory reforms. His commitment to resolving the Ukraine conflict adds a significant layer of intrigue for Western business operations in Russia, navigating through Moscow's stringent conditions in this geopolitical chess move. On the topic of transparency, Trump has taken a bold step by signaling an executive order to declassify the files related to the assassination of JFK, RFK, and Martin Luther King Jr. This move is part of a broader push for government openness, aiming to satisfy decades of public curiosity in conspiracy theories. However, the prolonged secrecy of these files prompts us to ponder, why were they hidden for so long? National security, the protection of intelligence methods, and bureaucratic tendency to shield from scrutiny or embarrassment have all been factors. Yet, the push for historians, the public, and now through executive action, this opening reflects the shift towards accountability and historical truth. Let us never allow a small group of elitists from Washington, D.C. to hide the truth from the people. We should never, ever allow it again. I asked Dad years ago, how did you guys ever allow this? How did you ever allow for them just to say, we're going to tell you about the JFK, who assassinated JFK in 75 years? Of course, now that I've been around for quite a while, it's pretty obvious how it happened. People are too busy. They keep everyone too busy. The money has a lot to do with it because, of course, they inflate the money and they keep the money so nobody ever really gets ahead. And then they tax you to death. And then when you leave money for your kids at the house and everything else, they tax the heck out of that. And they make sure that people don't get ahead. In the realm of global finance, the Bank of Japan's decision to hike interest rates to 0.5% was met with an unexpectedly calm market response, although Matt Dixon did. He predicted that. This could signal that the much discussed yen carry trade is either already unwinding or our markets have become more adept at anticipating Japan's monetary policy changes. This has implications for currency strength, investment flows, and the stability of markets that have long relied on Japan's low rate environment. The muted market reaction might also reflect a broader focus on other economic indicators or the anticipation of Trump's policies' impact, or all the above, right? The commodities markets are buzzing. Speaking of the commodities markets here, with silver soaring 1.63% and gold up by 0.55%. This isn't solely due to a weakened US dollar, but also mirrors the geopolitical uncertainty and the anticipation around Trump's economic agenda. While there's a case for continued interest in these metals as safe havens or industrial necessities, the trajectory will heavily depend on economic policy outcomes, global events, and shifts in investor sentiment. The US dollar's downward trend, the DXY dropping 0.5% overnight to 107.48, suggests a shift in market dynamics. This is the lowest it's been all month. Despite Dow futures indicating a negative open, the broader context of rising commodities and softening dollar might set the stage for an uptick in US stocks, especially in sectors that benefit from weaker domestic currency or those with significant international exposure. Let me just peek over there at the futures right now. They are starting to uptick, so that's about what I expected. Still down a little bit. In the tech and AI sector, Trump's administration unveiled the Stargate initiative, a colossal $500 billion investment aimed at bolstering AI infrastructure, with OpenAI as a pivotal player. This initiative, while showcasing ambitions to lead in AI innovation, has stirred ethical debates. Concern about AI's societal impact, privacy, and OpenAI's history with ethical governance are at the forefront. This partnership is seen as a strategic move to regulate AI's direction under the government oversight, though it also raises questions about the balance between technological advancement and ethical considerations. Robotics are making significant strides, with CES 2025 highlighting creations like Realbotix Aria for companionship and intimacy, and TCL's AI Me for a broader consumer engagement. I mean, it's really here, right? I mean, you're not even going to need a girlfriend. You don't even need a girlfriend. You just need a good robot. These advancements signify a move towards integrating robots into daily life, but also bring forth discussions on privacy, the ethics of human-robot interaction, and societal implications of such technology. Cryptocurrencies are riding a wave, with Bitcoin jumping 4% to 105,300 as I was putting this together. 105,395 at the moment, and altcoins like Litecoin and Solana following suit. Solana up about 10%. This surge follows Trump's executive order aiming at forecasting the crypto industry through regulatory clarity and support for stablecoins. While this could herald a more stable and accepted crypto market, the inherent volatility of digital currencies means investors should stay vigilant, ready for potential shifts based on policy implications or broader economic conditions. Trump's cabinet nominations are a blend of confirmations and controversies. Marco Rubio has been unanimously confirmed for Secretary of State, but others like Pete Hegseth for Defense Secretary are encountering significant resistance. This reflects the complex dynamics of political appointments, balancing ideological alignment with the need for competent governance. I will say that, Trump was thinking he might have to do pretty much all of these as recess appointments, and that has not been the case. So we'll see how they all play out. Marco Rubio, I mean, obviously he's been in the Senate for a long time. He was pretty much just rubber stamped. On the international front, the Ukraine war, excuse me, remains a focal point of global tensions. Ukrainian military advances, including into Russian territory, combined with North Korean involvement and Russia's strategic partnership with Iran, paint a complex picture. Trump's intention to negotiate peace adds an element of anticipation, but the path to resolution is fraught with geopolitical and strategic complexities. As well, of course, the Middle East is still a mess. We have a ceasefire over there in Gaza. It seems like they've kind of stopped the killing for a little while. Hopefully that holds. But it looks like a lot of armament still going in there. Trump has told Netanyahu that he needs to finish his war. So hopefully we will see that happen and we'll get some lasting peace over there. Lastly, Elon Musk's involvement in European politics through endorsements and leveraging his platform, X, has ignited a debate on free speech versus regulatory control. His actions have prompted scrutiny under the EU's Digital Services Act, highlighting the ongoing tensions between tech giants' agendas and democratic processes. As well, highlighting, look, free speech, right? It is pretty, it's pretty interesting to watch. Elon has his X platform, and nobody in the world is saying the stuff that he says about, the UK, Britain's prime minister, and of course the party in Germany, the political party. They all feel like he is pushing his agenda on them, and of course he is. But it's the agenda of freedom. It's the agenda of freedom. It's a good agenda, in my opinion. It should be pushed by all ways possible. I think he agrees. We will continue here in Washington, D.C. under this chill with, of course, politics, finance, and technology always heating up. I have with me here the great Matt Dixon with the Market Watch Report.
Hello, good morning. How are you doing, Bruce? Morning, everybody.
Fantastic.
Good, thank you.
You look great.
Yeah, thank you very much. So yeah, it's been amazing. Well, according to expectation, actually, that's why it's amazing. I'm really happy when we get it right. And thankfully, we get it right quite a lot. So I'm going to share my screen as usual. Hopefully it won't take me too long. Internet's a little bit slow here right now, but it should be okay. So hopefully you can see my screen, which is showing, well, that's DXY. Let's jump straight into the one that's in the news right now. Can you see that one, Bruce?
I sure can. That's the Japanese yen, US dollar yen there.
Yeah, so as you said, absolutely according to expectation, we said the market, there was 80% chance they were going to raise rates. They did, in fact, double the interest rate. Sounds serious, they doubled the interest rate, but it went from 1/4 to 0.5%. So, but it's actually the percentage or the magnitude is quite substantial to double the interest rate, from 1/4 to 1/2. But it was fully expected by the market. It was actually priced into the market. Now, I would say this doesn't mean that the carry trade has already unwound previously. Okay. I've heard some people say that. That is, I would say, absolutely definitely not the case. The reason it's not the case, we have now, even though they doubled interest rates to 0.5%, don't forget the US are 4.5%. So why wouldn't you borrow money from the Japanese at 0.5% and invest it with the American?
Yeah, that's still a massive difference.
massive difference, yeah. So, and the thing is also, you're borrowing money from the yen. At the moment, the yen is still depreciating against the dollar, and we are actually seeing quite a big move up here. So the yen is still depreciating. So actually, if you borrow in yen and put it in the dollar, you're gaining two ways. You're getting the strength of the dollar, which is increasing the amount of money you have in real terms compared with the yen. And you're also getting paid interest for doing it. So how amazing is that? That you can actually borrow money, get paid for borrowing money, and the money you borrowed is actually increasing in value. So absolutely amazing. So the carry trade is still on, absolutely, blazing away. It's full on. People are earning serious money out of it. The professionals, the institutions, they're earning mega money out of this carry trade. So that is still absolutely full on. And there's nothing, I think the only thing that will upset that, obviously it was upset last year when there was a surprise interest rate rise out of Japan. That was a different matter. But when
that
it's
was
fully
really, I was like fingers crossed as I was going to bed last night, and I was kind of scrolling through X and everything, and it was a variety of different opinions. Of course, everything was going down. I mean, I guess Bitcoin went down 20% last time a few months ago. It was in July or whatever that was.
Yeah, and that is very indicative of when the carry trade does unwind, you get some quite sharp, volatile moves. We obviously had the big unwind that happened back in 2008. That was a massive unwind of the carry trade, and we saw the yen strengthening massively against the US dollar and against all the other currencies, and people, basically panicking to sell their risk assets to pay the yen back, the yen borrowings back quickly, because then it's the very opposite of what I just mentioned. Then the yen was appreciating in value. So it meant that your debt, the amount you owed, was actually getting more and more and more because the yen was strengthening. And so everyone's in a rush to get rid of these risk assets which were falling in value, pay back the debt which was rising in value. And so you can see it was a terrible downward spiral at the time. And that's what happens when the yen carry trade unwinds. And that's clearly not the case at the moment. We can see, if I just open this chart out, and this is only this is the 1 hour chart, we can see even since they raised rates, you can see actually the yen has weakened even though they raised rates. Pretty amazing.
Yes.
So that shows that market expectations are everything. And don't forget, we've got the US interest rate decision next week, haven't we? Next Wednesday. So again, market expectations are everything. So they're going to keep rates on hold at 4.5%. That is almost nailed on. I think that's actually 97% chance now. They're going to keep rates on hold. So even greater certainty than we just had with the Japanese. So the US are going to keep rates on hold. But what is really important is the guidance that we're going to get from the Fed chair. So, and from the press conference, what questions are going to be asked. Now, I'm really disappointed these days with this press conference because the questions all seem so tame. There's nobody really puts them under pressure. And maybe they're not allowed to, I don't know, but really a press conference is supposed to put them under pressure and scrutiny and try to identify what's really going on behind the scenes. And that's what we want to know. They're the questions that need to be asked and answered to give us some, real guidance as to where we're going in the future. But it just seems all a very tame affair, to be honest, these days, not quite as it used to be. But even so, I think just the nature of the questions that are asked should probably give us some guidance. But if there's any surprises out there, it's surprises that move the market. And that's what I'm saying. This Japanese interest rate was no surprise, didn't move the market. But once we get a surprise, that's what moves the market. So the last big surprise I saw was actually the Trump pump when Trump won the election, not the inauguration, but actually when he won the election. That wasn't certain before it happened. It's a little bit, could have gone either way. And, clearly Trump won a bit of a landslide. And, with all the positive crypto moves that he's going to make or allegedly going to make, we'll see, that the market absolutely pumped. And that caught a lot of people by surprise, the strength of that move. And that's what we need to look out for, is surprises in the market, things that aren't expected. So that's why markets are not just driven by technical analysis, they're also driven by fundamentals. And you get two groups, don't you? That some people say the market is only driven by technicals. If you follow technicals, you can predict the market, etc. And the fundamentalists say the other side. It is actually a combination of the two. We've said this many shows in the past. You've only got half the picture if you're only looking at one side of the data. You need the full picture to get the best possible view that you can, best possible clear picture of what's going to happen. So I would say definitely technicals, definitely fundamentals, but also really, really important is sentiment. And sentiment is driven by expectations and whether those expectations are met or not. So that's very, very important. So I would say at the moment, if we just jump into Bitcoin, the expectations right now from everybody, there seem to be really, really bullish on Bitcoin. So that always gives me a little bit of cause for concern. When the sentiment is all one way, then there's risk for it to swing the other way. So when you've got all bullish sentiment, a lot of people are already bought into the market. There is risk for the other way. Now, I would say that I think I'll go back to the 4 hour. 1 hour is too short term, really. If we just go to the 4 hour, that shows a clear picture. We already had this. We said this was probably an ending diagonal, and it proved to be the case because at the end of the wave 5, and don't forget, they tend to follow trend lines, so we knew roughly where wave 5 was going to finish. We got quite a sharp sell-off. But all I would say is the move up since this sell-off, and I've even relabeled this as a potential W here, X here, and maybe Y down to come. I think that we're not necessarily impulsive from here. This does look quite choppy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We've got 7 waves higher. I've said before, you may remember, 7 waves is corrective. So this may well be a corrective X wave, and we still have a C wave down, a Y wave down, sorry, to finish a correction. So whilst this tells me that from this wave 3, we're corrective from wave 3, so this is a wave 4 in the making. Wave 4 could have finished here. It really is possible it could have finished here. But I'm saying I suspect that we may have further to go. And I mentioned this yesterday. There are many different waveforms and possibilities for a corrective wave. So this wave 4 here could possibly be still going to continue. And we're going to get some more upside to take us to new all-time highs. So that should take us way above the 109,000 that we had previously.
Almost
that's
10.
my expectation. Sorry?
I said almost 110. It was like a whisker under 110.
Yeah. So I'm still bullish Bitcoin. And as you said, there's so much positive sentiment out there. It's just that I think when sometimes it gets overdone on the short term, we may get a bit of a pullback. So I think that we are due still a bit of a pullback. And the other thing that tells me that we're still likely in a correction is just the very recent price action here. You can see it's choppy. We've often talked about overlapping price action, and we can see that we're not able to, I mean, even in this short section here, we can see lower lows, but also it's actually got higher highs. So it's actually, this is what's called a consolidation pattern. So we may break a bit higher from it, or, it's really difficult to say. So I'm just saying there's a lot of uncertainty hanging over the market. I wouldn't jump into a brand new position here, but if I was already in a long position, then fine, because even if it drops lower, I think longer term, we're definitely set for new all-time highs. Even Ethereum's taken a bit of a positive move, but as I say, I still think that Ethereum is also in consolidation, and we've seen quite a period here. We really do have a sort of relatively bearish outlook at the moment of lower highs and lower lows in this case. So that's actually relatively bearish that we have here scenario. So potentially this move here has been some kind of A wave up, B wave consolidation, C wave up, then probably move down again. So I am expecting, like Bitcoin, like with Ethereum, probably a bit of a move down. Even I'll just jump into Solana before we move into some other assets. But even with Solana, potentially, we've had a strong move up here. I'm actually more bullish on Solana than those other assets. We do appear to have had 5 waves up, but I think even with Solana, potentially we've got A, we may not have finished the B could even be a bit further on over here. So we could still go a little bit higher, but I still think we're probably not finished a C wave down yet with Solana, and then we'll push up to new highs yet again, for a new all-time high yet again for Solana. And Solana is probably my most bullish expectation for the markets to come. So
Up
I've heard
10% on the daily, at least on my timeline, my time zone. Up
my timeline is up 12% today.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. That's big moves.
I mean, remember we talked even before the Christmas holidays. We talked about, there was whispers in the market saying Solana $1,000. Who knows? It's possible. It really is possible. I mean, we've seen the Trump coin, Melania coin. Actually, all the meme coins are really on Solana. So it is the chain of choice, and there's potential for it to go much higher. They still have some issues, some congestion issues, but they are sorting them out, and there's multiple upgrades and advances. So I'm still really, really hopeful on all the markets, but my most hopeful asset of them all at the moment, apart from some real high-flying speculative ones, which could obviously outperform, but of the main tokens, and I definitely hold Solana among the main tokens, has the greatest potential for gains. And I suppose just finally to finish on these main crypto assets, I still think we look as though we're in consolidation. We can see impulsive moves strongly to the upside here. This looks like consolidation sideways, slightly down. That can still continue for some time. I don't know when the breakout's going to be, but I wouldn't want to get caught short on this asset. And that's why I say I wouldn't be looking to short anything, because this is consolidation. Means even if it's not right here, even if we do drop a bit lower, the next major move should be to the upside to brand new all-time highs for XRP. So XRP is another one of those main crypto assets that I'm really interested and excited about moving forward. We've seen nice new all-time high here for SPX. That's actually quite interesting. We've had 3 waves down. It does look, I was questioning yesterday, but it looks so impulsive right now. It does look as though this is just a completed 3-wave correction to the downside, a WXY, which is a double zigzag correction. That looks completed. And so it looks as though we're moving impulsively to the upside right now on the SPX, S&P 500. So both stock markets and crypto are looking pretty positive. On that Japanese yen, as I say, we're moving really powerfully now to the upside on the yen. Remember, if the dollar yen is moving higher, so that's yen weaker, dollar yen actually moving higher. If dollar yen's moving higher, it tends to be correlated with risk assets. But I think we've had 5 waves down. We can actually quite clearly see it here: wave 1, wave 2, wave 3, wave 4, wave 5. I think that we're probably on an A, B, C higher, so we still have higher to go, which is good for markets. But I still think we probably have another leg down. So remember what I said with Bitcoin. Potentially we have a bit more to go to complete this correction before we then start to move impulsively to the upside. So even with dollar yen here, I think that whilst we've got a little bit higher to go short term, I think we're going to get a further pullback, probably a reasonably substantial pullback, which could correlate with that bit of a sell-off I mentioned coming maybe in the not too distant future on Bitcoin. Maybe not immediate, but reasonably soon. But then following that, if this is an ABC correction down, then we have more upside to come with dollar yen. That means the carry trade is still fully on board in pushing ahead. So new all-time highs for dollar yen would mean that we're going to have new all-time highs for cryptocurrencies and for risk assets. So that's what I'm looking forward to. I think we've got some good times ahead still to come with those risk assets and looking really positive. But just short term, looking good. Medium term, maybe a bit of a pullback. Then longer term, really positive. So that's kind of my view on things. Just moving over to gold. Again, we're seeing gold moving nicely. I actually just checked where I still think we're going to get a pullback probably in gold. We can see we've not quite reached the previous all-time high yet on gold. That 100% extension would be here, and the previous all-time high, I think 2790 just about. We're not quite there yet, 2777. So we're within touching distance. Could easily touch that. We could surpass it, of course, but I suspect we may get that pullback. I said yesterday I wouldn't be looking to sell it, but if you wanted to trade, there's good risk reward for both ways with a very close stop loss so you don't lose much money, but potential for either to smash through and push right through to really good new all-time highs, or we could get a bounce back down to get a longer correction. So whilst nobody can predict the markets which way they're going for certain, nobody can do that. We can actually get good risk reward setups where you can bet either way on the market with a minimal stop loss and a substantial potential gain, and make sure you can take money out of the market. Not every time, but maybe more often than not. And the important point is your losses are smaller than your gains. You obviously want your gains to be the biggest. I wanted to look at Hang Seng Index, actually, just as a matter of interest. Quite interesting. We've had a bit of a push back up. Hang Seng got battered a bit the other day. We've had a bit of a.
We're still looking at the gold chart. It looks like to me.
Sorry?
It looks like to me. Oh, there we go. Okay. I was still seeing the gold chart, but now I see.
Oh, you see gold on the top, but it's actually the Hang Seng chart there. This is the
it updated. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So what's interesting is here we do actually have, and we're always talking about these lower highs here. So this high here, then we have a lower high and a lower high, then a lower high, and then look at the lows: a lower low, lower low, lower low, lower low, and lower low. So when you have this consistent lower highs and lower lows, that's indicative of a downtrend. Now, obviously, a downtrend can break. I'm not sure whether it's actually within trend lines there. It's not far off. The downtrend can certainly break at some point and push much higher. This actually looks corrective to the downside, so I am actually still bullish again with the Hang Seng. But at the moment, it's in a bit of a downtrend. So I would wait for a break above what seems to be a trend line here. I'd wait for basically a break of when we see lower highs and lower lows. I want to see a break of the previous high to make this look interesting. So that's what I'll be looking for. To break the downtrend, I need to see a higher high than the previous one, not continual lower highs. Because lower highs, if you keep getting lower highs, it just tells you you're in a downtrend. You know, it's going lower and lower and lower, stepping down like a step ladder. But if we can break that series and start to get a higher high, then that looks really interesting to me. I just jump into, even ADA, Cardano, great asset, a bit like Bitcoin. I said we might get a bit of a push up, but I still think we've probably got some more downside to go to complete this correction. But then really bullish. I think we're going to push powerfully to the upside. So I think even from here, as long as you can spread your assets enough and not put too much into any particular trade, even from here, we could possibly start to dollar cost average. And if, for example, just looking at ADA here, if you break this into 10 different buy points on the way down, you could actually dollar cost average 10 different trades. So then if it does drop lower, at least your average is in the middle here, way below where we are now, but your average is down here. And then potential upside to break above this previous high here, and potential downside stop loss, not as much as a potential gain. So that would be my strategy. I probably would wait for lower prices before I start to dollar cost average, actually. I probably wouldn't start here, but I'm just saying dollar cost average is probably the way. And looking into oil, we were, again, pretty well right yesterday, but there's been no major moves, so I can't really say we were right. We're looking at some kind of A, B, C move to the upside there. Interestingly, the C wave, the fifth wave equaled the 1.618 times the first wave. That's a beautiful Fibonacci relationship. And then we're moving down. I think there's actually probably quite some way to go down for oil. And we mentioned yesterday there's two possibilities for that, either a fall in demand or a rising of the supply. So I think at the moment, probably falling demand is going to, and we talked about the peace, this peace initiative from Trump especially, could potentially mean that any risk premium in oil is actually being eliminated. And so we could see lower prices in oil. That would be good for the economy. That would be good for inflation. That would give the Fed room to actually lower rates. If we see lower inflation, it means there won't be that pressure to increase rates. So I think lower oil will see lower prices, less pressure on inflation. I think it's just a great sign. So this is another thing which just leads me, you want to try and look at, as I say, as many pieces of the picture as you can. We've looked at dollar yen, for example. So we look at the strength of the dollar, we look at carry trade, we can look at other charts. But I think oil is actually really important as well. The price of oil, because so much of the economy depends on the price of oil. So if we see these lower oil prices, that's got to be great, because we're going to see that would mean inflation is, being diminished. And we saw, by the way, Japanese inflation, I think, was 3.6%, if I remember rightly, 3.6, 3.8. So way above target, and that's why they've had to raise rates the way they have. I mean, don't forget, the US is still above target, well above target, really, with inflation. But inflation's beginning to taper a little bit in the US, so maybe they're okay.
It's interesting because Trump came out and was talking about oil prices actually and their effect on inflation over the last week or so. I caught a bit of that, and that's another way to control inflation. So he really wants to lower interest rates. He came out on TV and said the rest of the world should follow us, lower interest rates, and get the price of energy down.
Yeah, I mean, it's looking. I mean, it's interesting. You know, it's what he's saying there. I mean, it does look as though energy prices are likely to fall lower. That will be good for inflation. That will allow them to lower interest rates. That will allow the economies to boom even more, because obviously interest rates, this is what borrowings are based on, and companies need to, you know, a lot of companies work from borrowed money, and they obviously want to get higher returns than what they're borrowing at. But the lower the interest that they're having to pay, the more the companies can boom, the businesses can boom. So we've seen everything that Trump has said is you know, he's trying to be pro-business. So it makes absolute sense what he's saying there about trying to lower interest rates. But obviously they cannot lower interest rates unless they can get inflation under control. But this is the key. If Trump has been saying that, I didn't hear that. You're obviously more in touch with what Trump is saying there. But if Trump is saying that about dropping the oil price, getting interest rates under control, it all fits together very nicely. So again, another reason to be positive markets. That's fantastic. Yeah. So relatively short one today. It is Friday. I'm looking forward to getting away for the weekend. So hope that helps. I don't know whether you looked at dollar index, whether you want me to go in any more, but dollar index is still, we're seeing probably a bit of, there's no divergence in place. So that's interesting. So dollar can continue to weaken as far as this is concerned, which is actually, again, probably a good thing. If the dollar weakens, it's probably good for the US economy. It means imports are basically cheaper for them. So yeah. Sorry, I got that the other way around. Exports will actually generate more money for them, won't it? So be good for the US economy for exports. So anyway,
it makes it easier for however it exactly affects us. But yeah, amazing.
Yeah. And obviously the dollar would weaken if we see lower interest rates. So again, it's all tied together. So yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thanks for that. Thanks for the opportunity for telling you about my thoughts on the market. Let's look forward to next week's interest rate decision. We'll be doing quite a lot of work before that on the expectations and where we think that's going to lead the market. So everyone have a great weekend. Thank you, Bruce. You have a great weekend, and look forward to catching up next week.
Sounds good, sir. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy your family.
Cheers. Thank you. Bye for now.
Cheers. Great. Matt Dixon with the Market Watch Report, heading into the weekend with everything on a nice little spike up. With, I think everybody's like, okay, well, Bank of Japan is not going to implode everything. We could see a really nice move continue here, but we're always keeping a very good finger on how all of that happens. So what I'm going to do is the same thing I did yesterday, which was play one of our panels from the DC inaugural week. We really had some great content here. Let's see here. Manager. Let's pull it up. We really had some great content. Of course, we had the great the Dr. Charles Malone. We had Eric Berg. Of course, we had, as you saw last week, yesterday, we had Nick Spanos in here, as well as Brock Pierce and the rest. Let me just pull up a good one here. This one's fairly interesting. Here we go. Let's share my screen. Boom, boom. We had Joy Villa on this panel as well. I introduced it and then I participated in the panel. And here we are.
Okay. I was like, I have to be on this panel, guys. Joy's on it. Too slow. Okay, the next panel here is the panel discussion, the MAGA effect on crypto. How high are we gonna go? Woo! I'll tell you what, Solana is pumping pretty hard right now because, of course, Trump's meme coin is on there. Please welcome to the stage Gerald Gallagher. Give him a hand, folks. Gerald Gallagher. Woo! Gennaro Di Urso. Myself, I'm gonna just be part of the panel.
Yeah.
And this panel is going to be led by Christopher Planks, also with the Digital Chamber of Commerce. Thank you very much. Yeah.
It's fine. I'll see.
On this panel.
Okay, perfect.
Well, thank you guys for being here. I think very briefly, why don't we give like a 15-second background for each of you so that people know where we're coming from when we're speaking. I am from the Chamber of Digital Commerce. I lead our national security policy work as well as our Bitcoin and energy working groups.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Gennaro D'Urso. I'm a scientist. I'm a professor, an entrepreneur, and I've worked on medical treatments for folks for many years. And I'm here sort of representing the vision that we all, I think, share for Maha and how we can make America healthy again.
Awesome. Hello, everybody. Yeah. Good morning. Good afternoon. What an amazing time to be alive. This is wild. So my name's Joy Villa. I am a singer, an influencer. I am a film producer and actress. Wearer of dresses. Andre Soriano created this amazing gown. And I'm very known for, kind of starting conversations in very controversial spaces. So I worked on the president's campaign in 2017, 2018, 2019. And I'm just so happy to be here, part of this illustrious panel. I'm an investor, I'm into crypto. So it's very exciting for me. I've been into crypto since 2016. So this is awesome that the crazy people are starting to get seen as valid, right? So, yeah. Nice. Very good. Woo, woo.
Hey everyone.
It's not working. All right. I guess we.
Thanks.
Hey everybody, I'm Gerald Gallagher. I'm counsel at Say Labs. We're a layer one blockchain and we do parallelization of the EVMs. So not one of those centralized layer twos. So we was talking about on the earlier panel. Background. So I was prior to this, prior to jumping into crypto, I was back in 2021 full time. I kind of dabbled around when I was a VC and sort of fintech, healthcare, healthy regulated industries. I'm really excited about what's happening in the space.
Amazing. And what's mine?
Thanks.
Bruce Porter Jr., we've been at it for quite a while. Amazing to put an event like this together and short notice. Hats off to everybody involved in the team and everybody who came and put it all together. I got into Bitcoin a very long time ago. Bitcoin was $70.
Oh, wow. What?
It has been a heck of a ride. We've been around the world a number of times. My brother right here, my trusted brother, been around the world with me a number of times. We'll head to Hong Kong next month. We don't travel quite as much as we used to, but that could change. We'll see. And super excited, as a lot of people have talked about, Trump dropping this meme coin. That is like, it just took the chains off. Like, what are you gonna do? Charge the president with dropping a security gun, So there you go, guys. It's the wild west.
Yes.
Thank you. This is working great. So I think to set the stage, I mean that's sort of a great indicator of where things may be headed from a couple of perspectives, but really to set the stage, when I've been talking with folks about what is going on, how things are morphing and changing, even just over the last 2 months before the Trump administration has come into office, I've described it to folks as being 179 degrees different than it was. And it's set the stage, every position of consequence in the administration so far, Treasury Secretary, Commerce Secretary, SEC chair, the folks that are being talked about for the CFTC chair and several others at least, they all have a pro blockchain, pro crypto, bend interest background. And so that sets the stage for the discussion we're having now. And I say 179 degrees different because there were a couple of glimmers in the last administration and a few folks that we knew in particular that were working not seemingly at cross purposes with the industry in general. And so I've described to folks when people have asked me, it almost feels surreal the situation we're in now compared to what it was 2 months ago, a year ago. And so given that there are a lot of parameters around where things could go over the next year, 2 years, and potentially beyond that, depending on how elections shake up. But I'm curious, we have some kind of very broad factors that other folks have talked about, the market structure bill that will give potentially clarity around what is a security, what's a commodity, the strategic Bitcoin reserve possibility. I'm curious what you guys think, if you have any insight into that, the possibility of that. In my mind, that might be the largest driver and maybe the largest wild card in where things could go. Gerald, I know you have some interesting opinions, please.
Yeah, I think, no, it's a really interesting place to start. I think, yeah, on the heels of this meme coin, we're kind of just in like uncharted waters here, in a lot of ways, which is very exciting. And a little scary in some other ways. I think like the sort of the thing that the industry has been dealing with, and I'm based here in DC, for the last few years is just like loss after loss after loss after loss. Like we're just getting like beaten down. And you know, the election and I think kind of not only at the presidential level, but like all across, you know, the Senate, the House, like, you know, a lot of wins. And right now we're in this position of like the dog has caught the card, right? Like, so there's a big, like vibes are extremely high, like extremely high. And now we have to figure out as an industry how to capture all this energy and like point it in the right direction. And so someone, you know, sort of gave like a doomsday scenario earlier in the day. And I don't necessarily think that, I think for the industry specifically, not for like broader humanity, there are a lot of different ways that this could go wrong. And so I think what we really want to focus on over the next few months is, you know, we have an administration who is clearly open to working with us. I think it's fantastic. We have treatment of assets that's going to change. We have precedents being set at the highest levels, right? What does it mean that the president just launched a meme coin? I don't know. And so, you know, the fact that, you know, family members are you know, invested in a DeFi enterprise, right? Like I've been using a bad joke from a regulatory perspective. And by the way, none of this is financial advice. All my views are my own. But you know, the joke is that, okay, well, if World Liberty is doing it, then that's a good kind of guidepost to follow, just in terms of the rest of the industry trying to figure out what we're going to do. And then I'll just say on like the sort of like how high, I think last time I checked, there's a little funky math in terms of like how you actually value a meme coin, but it was something like $20 billion, like, you know, fully diluted market cap for a meme coin. That's absurd. That's like a very large company. And the point of a meme coin is that there actually is no company. Like that's the underlying principle of this term meme coin, is that there is no business plan. There is no underlying sort of objective. And so the fact that, you know, we have a market that's valuing that at $20 billion is a very interesting indicator of like where we're going to go. So from my kind of like traditional finance background, you know, you look at things like cash flows and pro forma financial statements, and like, you know, I've seen people on crypto Twitter and things like that say, you know, okay, to get Bitcoin to $200,000, you have to add $1 trillion in market cap, and where does $1 trillion come from and all that stuff. And I think what we can like safely say is that all of that math is just like out the window. Like I don't, and it's what that's going to mean is that there's a lot more volatility. Like I think you should check back in Wednesday on where that coin is trading. But I think it's a really interesting time. Sort of the cap has been kind of taken off, but I think we're also going to see a lot of volatility.
So it's really interesting. So one of the reasons I'm here because I met Bruce some time ago at Consensus, and Michael Casey invited me to talk within 2 days of meeting me. And I think listening to everyone, it's really interesting, always been interesting to me, is how Bitcoin or crypto or blockchain ties in with health. Because I'm a scientist. I've been a scientist for many, many years. I don't want to say how long. I know my real age. But the reality is that I was driven to help people during COVID. That was one of the things I did. But at the end of the day, it's a bigger picture than that. So looking at the health crisis, we know it's broken. That's obvious. Everyone knows that. How do you fix that problem?
This is important.
So basically, the way we approached it at the time was to say, how do we couple decentralized systems with actually finding treatments that people need? So how do we make those bridges occur? And it was obvious to me that Bitcoin, regardless of the value of the coin, which I did not care about, it was about the value of Bitcoin and how that could be used for a generation of an infrastructure that would work. And this was really under the principles of somebody I really admire, which is Alexander Hamilton, who built our country with the same idea and built a treasury to support it. So Bitcoin has an opportunity, or crypto, to build the infrastructure for new ways of governing. Within the context of a good government, hopefully, we have one now that could do that. So for me, it becomes very exciting. I think we have to all be afraid of dopamine crashes. But bottom line is we keep ourselves level-headed and we really think about the purpose of these systems and how they can do good in the world. So yes, it's great to build a statue. That's great. But can we build a reservoir for clinical trials for people that need treatment so that we can get these things tested, as Bobby Kennedy wants to do, with real science evidence to support it, so that we can improve the lives of many people around the world. And also, of course, in this country where we care the most. But everybody's affected. If we do something, we need to come back to being the innovative country that we've always been. We have to take the lead, as Bobby has said in many of his books. We have to show the world the way to do this. And we all can do that by using our brains collectively and building bridges. So that's what I'm hoping to participate in.
Love that. This is so awesome to hear what you said, both of you gentlemen, because so I'm creative and I'm also in fitness and health. So I launched Joyvilla Fitness, and it's a health and nutrition company. I have 2 of my clients here today, which is awesome. And the purpose of the intersection of, you say, health and crypto, and people might go, what does that have to do with each other, right? But it's about freedom. Everyone in this room, each and every person in this room has a responsibility to invest in their own freedom. And I purposely run my life for the 5 pillars of joy. I'm running this book too. This is how I run my life: faith, freedom, finance, fitness, and family. And so if you have all of those aligned, you're free. You have joy, right? And really, when you're happy, what does that mean? You're free. No one can tell you, like if you have a 9 to 5 and you're stuck and all your money is invested in the banks and you have to go to work, you have to pay that bill, or your family's not going to eat, is that freedom? No, it's not freedom. But if you can work from anywhere, if you can grab your laptop, if you can do investment strategies, if you can, call your friends and still be making money, kind of sounds like freedom, doesn't it? And now I don't think that Bitcoin and crypto is this quick get rich quick scam. Some people think that. It's not. Bitcoin came on the market 15 years ago. So it's 15 years of trusted rising in the markets, right? And people will be so quick to buy property, but look what happened in Los Angeles. They burned those properties down. So property can be taken away. Items can be taken away from you. I'm not saying don't invest in there. I'm not an investment, professional, but I'm saying if you don't know about cryptocurrency, like I'm creative, right? So I'm not involved in the back end, but I sure as hell am involved in the front end because I get paid through streaming services. So when I get #1 on Billboard, iTunes, and Amazon in 2017, streaming services took a huge chunk out of my money. If I would have been like some of the other artists back then, I would have used a decentralized platform. I would have been able to get paid quicker and it would have been all my money. So I already cut out the middleman of a recording company, because I'm self-funded, self-published, right, self-produced. But what if I could be actually self-funded, as in my money doesn't come from the big banks, right? So for any creatives out there, or people are like, this is over my head, it doesn't have anything to do with me, I'll leave it up to Trump, I'll leave it up to the people on stage. This has everything to do with you, right? This has everything to do with the spirit of freedom. My people perish for lack of knowledge. Who reads the Bible here? Amen. So if you don't study this, and it can be overwhelming at first, but I am encouraging you as artists up here to study it. If you're a mom, if you're a dad, if you're a kid, if you're a kid, you probably already know about it, but the next generation is getting smarter. Don't be afraid to be dumb. Don't be afraid to feel dumb, because your greatest gain in this life is knowledge. So knowledge is key. Don't be afraid to learn. What is this? What does this mean? All these terms up here. I mean, a lot of you guys are smart. You probably already know, but I always assume everybody doesn't know, because I'm probably the dumbest person on a lot of things I study. But I'm scrappy. I've got grit, and I say I want to learn it. I don't mind being the dumbest person in the room. In fact, I prefer it, because I want to learn and want to get better. So this is about freedom, and each and every one of you has the power to tap into this freedom.
There you go. And I'll follow that, Mike. You said a lot of really important things right here. It is about freedom. You heard Nick Stanos talk about it. You hear me talking about it. We're talking about it around the world for over 10 years now, the monetary revolution. And that was the other part that was so important about Trump dropping the meme yesterday. It wasn't just this or that. It was, boom, mic drop. Hey, Federal Reserve banking cartel. Guys, the gig is up.
That's right. That's right.
The gig is up.
Woo!
It's never going to be the same again.
That's right.
It will never be the same again. And that's where we're at. And it's such a historic moment. And, Trump, sometimes he'll drive me nuts. I got to be honest. I mean, I've always been a supporter, but he'll drive me nuts sometimes. He probably drives me nuts sometimes too. But man, that was huge. That was massive, because the banking cartel, it's a shadowy cartel that really controls the country, because they have complete and total control over the monetary policy. You know why Bitcoin went up so high over the last bit? Because they printed up a bunch of money and they bought it all. And they had the power to do it. And that's what we're breaking. And it's not going to be overnight, but we're doing it.
I'm gonna make a couple of threads that you guys all touched on. And one, this meme coin is a great example. And Gerald, what you said, it almost feels like we're entering another Wild West phase of the market, where we don't know. But well, right now it seems like there's not a lot that's off limits, to kind of put it generally broadly. And Janelle, kind of touching what you said, in general, we need to use our brains, and I'm a little bit concerned that we may that the greedier, more criminal side of humanity will rear its head again in this sort of Wild West stage that we're entering into. And so I see some danger there. I mean, it's just like you said from last night, this coin went from nowhere to whatever it is, 16x, basically overnight, instantly.
The FTX will happen again. It will happen again.
There'll be winners and losers, and people that are just stepping into it may be harmed, materially. And so that's one thing I'm concerned with. And I think if we, as the people that know some of the industry or are helping to onboard people into it and educate lawmakers and constituents in general, that we need the folks to be aware of that, because we have great hope and interest financially, personally, otherwise, but the other side of humanity takes advantage of people whenever they can, and there will be a lot of vulnerable people that see these run-ups and see, hey, Trump, I'm gonna get some of that coin, and the next day it's down 50% or 90%, and they, their hopes and dreams are that. And then for the folks who, we talk about the poor and freedom, but they don't have access to some opportunities that registered investors do, they also can least afford to lose $1,000 that they think might turn into 10,000 or 100,000 because any little blip in their income or their savings can really destroy the trajectory of their family. So I'm curious, what you guys think, like in this sort of interim period where some of these regulations and laws and policies are actually being formulated and passed through Congress or rules made through some of the, or remade through some of the SEC, CFTC, for example. How can we sort of protect the industry, protect new users in this interim?
Yeah, I think it's a super interesting question. I guess the blessing of this industry that we've had over the last few years, and so if you take like traditional tech and everything that's happened in crypto, it's just dramatically compressed from a time scale, right? Like, and so the blessing that this industry has had is that we've had enough money to try pretty much every idea, right? And there's some wheel reinvention that happens, like there's a lot of interesting things that happen. Because the flip side of that is the curse is that we've had enough money to try every single idea. And so I think what you said about getting educated and not being afraid to dive into things, the information has never been more accessible than it is in crypto, right? You go back and read the white paper, it's there.
Yeah.
You're interested in DAOs, you go read a governance proposal, it's there, it's all laid out. This is all incredibly transparent. And I'll say like also just the boom and bust, crypto is just kind of the next frontier here, right? There's nothing that, you go back, I'll plug a book. If you ever, Devil Take the Hindmost, it's a history of financial speculation. Goes all the way back, like not Dutch tulips, like way further back than that, joint stock companies. They talk about railroads in the 1800s, right? There's wild speculation whenever you have rapid wealth creation. That just happens. And it attracts nefarious characters and that kind of stuff. But the fact that a lot of railroad companies went bust in the mid 1800s doesn't mean that we didn't need railroads, right? And so I think you have to not overly focus on the financialization of everything. You made a really interesting point. I wasn't sure how much we were going to talk about the Maha component of this, given the panel topic, but Say is very interested in decentralized science, DeSci. We've got some interesting announcements coming out soon. Very, very bullish on, some of the initiatives that actually could take place. I'll say, like, as someone who was in healthcare, I got very disenchanted with this idea that we're spending more money every single year and our outcomes are getting worse every single year, right? Like, how does that happen? And so, I'll just say, like, the information's there. Even going back to the meme coin, right? You can see in a Phantom wallet that the top 10 holders of that coin own 86% of the supply. That's not an opinion, that's just math, right? So like, what is the outcome of that? Whereas if I go to a decentralized science project where I have an innovative funding model, funding clinical research, I will say we're still bridging the gap between like the FDA clearance timeline and the liquidity expectations of the crypto community. We're still figuring that out. They don't really like to know how long a stage 3 clinical trial is going to take before they get their token. But no, I think that just the underlying thing is there's going to be so much happening, right? I think even prior to the inauguration, people in DC are already talking about, that we're back on Trump time. And so it's going to happen quick, but like, I think it's a great point. Do your research because the information is there. That's the nature of this industry, is it is transparent. Yeah. And so dig in, find what interests you and go wherever that leads you.
Yes.
So something that comes to mind is what's trust is very important and purpose. And if you're doing this for money, God bless you. It's fine if you, everybody's free to do what they want. But I keep trying to push the idea of purpose versus, and also the trust system is very important. So imagine the concept that you put money into a pot every year and use that for healthcare for all people around the world or in our country. That's called the treasury. And there's trillions of dollars coming out of the treasury every year for people to get well, theoretically. that was overworking. And so maybe there's better ways to do that. And it's not just about making money. It's about the fact that you're providing money and you're not getting money back. It's not an investment. It's what you have to pay for once you go to jail. So maybe in the crypto world, you don't have to go to jail if you. But maybe there's a way to get people to incentivize themselves to do something small in mass numbers.
Snap at a range.
Well, I think that, you can't get away from this strategic Bitcoin reserve. You know, I mean, if Trump makes a move and starts buying Bitcoin with dollars that they print up for a strategic Bitcoin reserve, I mean, you know, we could go to $1 billion real quick. So we could 10x real quick. And now, if Bitcoin 10x's, then the alts are gonna bleed for a bit, but then they're gonna 20x more than likely. Okay, it'll take a little bit, but they'll really go. So that's the big factor. Now, it's very hard to hit the mark. I mean, I've been in the business for so long, and it's very hard. You always either go under or over. I mean, I'm always surprised how low it goes, and I'm also surprised how high it goes. I mean, it never fails. So, I mean, realistically, yeah, $250,000. I mean, that seems like a realistic, even 170. You know, I mean, it's a lot higher from now. I mean, it's hard to even look at Bitcoin being this high. You're totally on it. But you know, those are the factors, and then you just go down the list. You know, Solana $1,000, Litecoin should have been $1,000 a long time ago. And that's always Litecoin. What the heck? Come on, do something. No, I mean, I love Litecoin. Yeah, XRP got to $10. I know some of my friends have bought a lot of XRP. They're happy right now. So yeah, that's $1 billion. I think high end. You know, 170 on the low end. That's what I think.
I think that's interesting, makes sense. I'm not gonna try to put a number on it, I've given up on that. I will talk about some of the factors though, and I think that the FTX will happen again, that's like something that I think especially if you're in the legal community at all, you're just always like, it's kind of over your shoulder. I think what will be interesting is to see how broad the exposure becomes. One of the factors that will determine a lot here, when you're talking about an SBR or across any asset, what you're actually talking about is concentration and like long hold periods of the asset, right? Like that's good for price, that's just math. And so what happens when you have an FTX situation is it actually wasn't really FTX, like they had a lot of mistakes on the bookkeeping and that kind of stuff. But what actually happened is the industry cross-collateralized itself. So we had $3 trillion of market cap, where probably $2 trillion of that was somehow locked in to some kind of an obligation, whether it was Three Arrows Capital or what Alameda was doing, or like there's so many that basically, or Gemini, Genesis, like all these things. And I know that because we went and looked at the company I was at in 2021. We looked at offering a yield product, and what you have to understand is yield is essentially debt. Like, and so you're taking an asset and you're basically pledging to keep it somewhere for a period of time. Now, legally, that's yield is not debt. I'll say that on this panel, but it has the characteristics. So one of the important factors here will be if you look at like the MicroStrategy and what they're doing, or if you look at more companies deciding to keep an asset like Bitcoin on their balance sheets, I think you're going to see that could be good if it's very widespread. You know, sovereigns holding Bitcoin could be good if it's properly distributed so that there's no single point of failure. But that's, I think, what's going to keep a lot of people in my world up at night as we go through this next cycle is like, I mentioned 86% of holders, right? Or 86% of tokens for like one wallet has to sell and that thing is going to get nuked. And so that's to me, and then on the upside is if you actually do reach this kind of distributed equilibrium where we do get mass adoption and we start having, you know, real use cases that aren't about the over-financialization of assets, then we probably see a lot of movement. And I think either way, there's a lot of room to run. Like I said, when we kicked it off, you know, finding that additional trillion in market cap, I think it's much more accessible than it was maybe 6 months ago.
I love what everybody said up here. I think it's gonna come down to mass utilization. Like, is it gonna be easier for the normal guy to buy cryptocurrency, right? Because once it becomes like, you know, we have commercials on and Betty Sue just bought some XRP and Dogecoin, you know, once it starts becoming regular office talk and it's easy for people to just go in and buy it. Right now, the barrier to entry is a little bit difficult for a normal person. You can learn it, but it's not as easy as other investments, right? Because also people get very overwhelmed. I talk to people all the time, like, well, why should I invest in that? Well, people who already have investments, who have money in property or money in the stock market, they think, well, I already have money and this works for me. Why should I do something so volatile like crypto, right? So they're not gonna really spend time or money in publicizing it. And then you have the layman, the normal person who's like, well, I don't have money to put into something that's I could lose tomorrow, right? Because you also have like the crypto bros thing. It's like fitness. You have the gym bros who make fitness look hard, overcomplicated. You gotta take steroids, or you gotta look like this. You gotta have the huge butt. And then you have the people who are like, no, health doesn't have to be this complicated. You can just go to the gym regularly and eat well. So I think once we mass adapt easier ways for the normal person to use it, and honestly, Trump is doing that just by being who he is, and having this meme coin, like this is massive. I was asleep at that time, and I don't have any Trump coin, and I'm so pissed.
I kept trying to buy it, Dave. It's going up so fast.
I know, it's insane. And so, you know, that is something that is now everybody who loves Trump, which we have a lot of farmers, we have a lot of blue collar workers, right? They're gonna be like, wait, Trump has a meme coin. Maybe I should start researching meme coins. And that, once that mass adaptation starts happening, Bitcoin's gonna go up because Bitcoin is the gold standard, right? It will always go up, I believe. And I do believe that once we get mass adaptation, the PR and marketing of it, you know, it's just like when people get used to something, they get comfortable, it's trust, it's consumer trust. Once that happens, I think it can go up to probably, I would say 300,000 this year, I think.
So you said something really interesting about mass adoption that made me think about something that, and it is purely a Trump effect, is if probably wrong room to bring this up, but in 2016, 17, a lot of average citizens started becoming sort of constitutional law experts about things like foreign interference and things like that. It was literally just because that was what was being discussed.
Yeah.
And so I think to your point, there are a lot of people who are in more of, because I do think crypto, like we do live in a bubble a lot of the time, right? And it's hard to recognize that. But if you do have, I think someone tweeted this morning, it's like the top 4 apps in the App Store, basically like how to get started in crypto. Right,
Awesome.
like the Phantom wallet is like skyrocketing. There's all this, so like it is going to be really interesting to see what the average consumer, just because he's making it part of the conversation.
Yes.
There's a lot of people who don't have opinions on this topic yet, who are gonna figure it out, gonna have to figure it out just because they see it in their daily lives and in the things they care about. So I'm very interested to see how that affects adoption.
Absolutely, absolutely. Everybody research it. Everyone in this room should be researching. Like you said, the white papers are there. The internet is free, and I do believe Bitcoin, it's crypto is doubling at the faster speed than the internet. That's what I heard. And I do believe we're on like the .com boom with crypto. I think it's not too late to invest. I do think that it's gonna explode. And the world will never be the same. Like already from yesterday, crypto world will never be the same. That means the rest of the world. I got my friend started on Bitcoin today. I was like, we have to get you a wallet. We got to download it. And it was hard to do because you have to show your, your ID, and the barrier to entry is still not as easy as fiat, but it's worth it. It is worth it.
I'm not gonna make any prediction about the price of Bitcoin. But I will say, again, purpose. Because at the end of the day, this is emotional. This is tulips. At the end of the day, it happened before. It happened when we first started the country. It's always going to be volatile. It's always going to have to stabilize at some point. It might be 1,000 years from now. We don't know. Hopefully we'll be here. But if we don't have a purpose that ties to these currencies, to a purpose, we will not get it anywhere. That's right. So people think about purpose, think about business, think about building your passion.
Absolutely.
Don't worry about the price of Bitcoin. Think about what you can do as a human being to make the world a better place. Period.
Absolutely.
And if Bitcoin is the way to do it, great.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'll say, I spoke at a conference in October of 2023, and this subject came up. And what I said was, at the time was, I thought that institutional adoption would fuel this next kind of building run in the market. And that seems to have proven true. And I'm going to get the numbers wrong, but directionally this is correct. Something like more capital flowed into Bitcoin ETFs in the first 6 months of their existence than I think in 10 years of the gold ETFs, which were the most successful ETFs up until that point. And so I think that those funds seem to be actually accelerating. That has not slowed over the course of last year. It's been almost exactly 1 year since ETFs were introduced. The funds seem to be accelerating into those ETFs. I think that continues, and other institutions and corporations are going to continue to bring it onto their balance sheet. I think just under that scenario, we're probably going to go to 150 to 175. The wild card is the sovereign adoption. The U.S., obviously the largest economy in the world, but there are indications that some nations have already begun adopting it and are. There's an indication that maybe a huge sovereign wealth fund has been buying massively over the last year. If that kicks off in earnest with any number of medium-sized countries, let alone the U.S., then the sky's the limit, and who knows, it gets crazy. But thank you guys for your contribution, your thoughts. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
I'm saying 225 in 6 months.
Whoa,
there you go.
I like that. Bullish.
Hey Randy, I got another home run for us, man. This 2-bit exchange is absolutely amazing.
Hey Bruce, what's up, man? Yeah, why don't you tell me about that 2-bit exchange?
Yeah, that's right. And we're going to be able to list our coins that we want, that we support, and they're going to be on this amazing derivatives platform. It's absolutely awesome.
Derivatives? I love derivatives. I can't wait to be on the Trade Copy program.
So what I want you to do is set up an account and then send me your UID, and let's set you up with a trade copy system, and you just let it run. Copy our trades. That's it. Easy peasy.
So you want me to open an account, send you my user ID, and you hook me up with the Trade Copy system. I can't wait. Sounds spectacular.
Hey, Matt. Hey, listen, I met with the guys at 2-bit Exchange while I was in Dubai, and this platform really looks amazing.
Yeah, hi Bruce. Yeah, thank you again for that heads up. I mean, I've looked into this 2-bit platform. It does appear to have everything we're looking for.
Yeah, that's right. 2-bit, T-O-O-B-I-T. They have great liquidity. They have futures platform. There's a lot of functionality that I think you're going to like on there. And they really want to work with us. They want to work with the Impact Money Show. And as you and I both know, if they have a good product and they want to work with us, well, hey, that's half the battle.
I mean, basically, I love that copy trade facility. I love the features on the platform. It's basically very simple to use.
Our viewers only need to set it up to copy our trades, and they just do all the trades that we do. Makes it really easy for people to participate. I think they're going to love it. I'm pretty excited about it.
And yeah, it's definitely going to benefit people. I mean, obviously with all the years of experience that we can pack into it and people can basically benefit from that. Yeah, I definitely think it's a goer.
Hey, David. Yeah, man, I'm excited about it too. I mean, when you think of the ways that we can help our viewers earn money and be able to participate in the monetary revolution, this 2-bit platform just opens up all kinds of doors that they don't have right now.
Hey, Bruce, I'm checking out this platform. It's revolutionary.
That's absolutely correct. And the futures platform is amazing. Great liquidity. And the copy trader program, people are going to be able to make the trades exactly when we make them and make the money that we make. It's a win-win for everybody.
Open for U.S. customers, and you can deposit money with the credit or debit card. Doesn't get better than this.
Beautiful. And what do you think we should use as a referral code?
I think we should use Impact Money. That's the one. Impact Money.
Your voice is powerful. When combined with social engagement, it's a force for change. Decentralized media paired with free speech is the catalyst for an empowered world and a unified, invaluable ecosystem. Join Global Boost, become a champion of free speech, and help to reshape the future of media.